Access granted.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Cover Art Conversations. It's me, Isis, and today I have the amazing, super dope, talented graphic designer and creative director, Dewey Saunders. What's up, Dewey? Say hey to the people.
Thank you. Thank you, Isis. What up, people? It's a pleasure to be here. So happy to talk about dope stuff, graphic design, album artwork, all that. Creative direction, you know what I mean? So yeah, let's get into it. This is my
Yes,
bread and butter.
exactly. And as a graphic designer, I try not to be like biased about the people that I talk to, but I love talking to other designers because I
Yeah.
have a lot of like niche design stuff. Like I want to talk about
Yeah.
the clone stamp tool on Photoshop. Like those are like I want to
Facts.
really get into the nitty gritty of your process. But I want to
Yeah.
start from the very beginning
Sure.
and talk about your childhood. Like how did we get
Yeah.
here? Like what was baby Dewey like to
Yeah.
end up to be a really dope graphic designer and creative director?
So the origin story, I mean, it's a pretty deep lore. I'm actually from South Florida, so kind
Oh,
of like right like an hour north of Miami in kind of a smaller beach town called Boynton Beach, but it's
okay.
next to like Delray Beach and Boca Raton, which is like very well known and kind of affluent. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just kind of like a humble little beach kid. My dad was a lifeguard, my mom was like waiting tables, and they were like teenagers when they had me. So I was kind of surrounded by all of their like cooler friends and was getting tossed like skateboards from my dad's friends. And they were all like, they all had like their own like little like beach brands too. One was called Rhino Tough. This guy named Jeff Surgener, who I kind of like idolized. He was a surfboard shaper and put out like clothes and did a bunch of like art and paintings and stuff. And my other dad's friend like made board shorts. So I was kind of surrounded by this like creative class of misfits and surfers and lifeguards in South Florida. And a lot of them were into music. My dad was like super into reggae and made like mixtapes for all of his friends and stuff. So the parallels are really close to what I'm doing now, which is kind of funny, but just like kind of early 80s like South Florida vibes,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
And I always ask that question because I feel like for creatives it always gets full circle. Like
Yeah.
any like little stream is like I guess I don't know if it's invisible string theory, but
Uh-huh.
when you're a kid, there's always something that leads you to where you at today. And I don't know if a
Yeah.
lot of people consciously make that connection, but I'm always thinking back to my childhood. I'm like, what ideas can I get from back then that I was doing that could help me now?
No,
And I love
absolutely.
that.
It's funny. It's like hindsight is very 2020 too. So it's kind of like obvious the steps that I took to get where I am. But when you're in it, you don't really see the path all the way. But looking back, it's really obvious that I like, delved into skateboarding and got inspired by that culture, art and music wise, and kind of combined with hip hop and just like really was passionate about that whole like a convergence of those Venn diagrams of skateboarding, art, and hip hop. And that's kind of like how my creativity was fueled. Just like hearing the music in the skate videos and putting up the posters from the magazines. These were
Mhm.
all things that kind of contributed to my like early creative vocabulary. And I knew I had like an eye too, but I didn't know that like graphic design was really a thing. I just saw
Yeah.
the artwork on like graphic tees and decks and in the skate shop, but it was a culture that I was like really heavily involved in, and hip hop was the same way for me too. So like my art, I think, is really just an extension of that early like creative blast. And this is more kind of when I was a teenager outside of Philadelphia. So kind of like fast forward, I moved to Pennsylvania when I was kind of like around 10, I think.
Mhm.
So that was like a really big, like, just a paradigm shift basically. And I think that like, that really kind of colored how, my teenage experience was. And I took that South Florida skateboarding energy, but kind of was immersed in more of like a art and hip hop space with my friends back then. So it was really like a interesting culture in like kind of like the late 90s that I'm almost still inspired by, and
Yeah.
honestly still kind of informs my practice. I still feel like it's 1999 and I'm skateboarding and freestyling and stuff. So it's like
I love
the
that.
same energy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Um
really cool. I think you
yeah.
get like beach town too. Like
Hmm.
I love that you, because I'll let you finish, but I just wanted to say, I was gonna mention like how has, you know, you're living in LA, your experiences in LA.
Yeah.
I feel like it really reflects in like those bright colors, that collage
Yeah.
style. So, but it's really not only LA, it's just the beach
Yeah.
towns in general.
Yeah, it's that whole experience, and the early days of South Florida. So even though I was kind of born down there and raised till I was 10, like Philadelphia kind of shapes my like adult
Okay.
like creative formation. I just spent like almost a decade in Philly, just living in various parts of the city before moving to LA. So that was an interesting experience for me because um as a little kid you don't really choose where you get to go, so that was a context that formed me. And then when I was able to kind of get my head above water and start to look around the world and think about where I wanted to be, LA seemed to always be an option,
Mhm.
kind of in the background. It's funny when you're really like entrenched in the East Coast, like you don't really like even know that moving to LA is like really an option. And then
Yeah.
when I decided to, all my friends were like not like upset, but they were like really, really surprised. So it was a giant leap and also another paradigm change that kind of really shifted my art in a giant way.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like in the wake of the Anderson Paak Malibu stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then like as I was moving to LA, I was currently working on a whole album rollout and campaign for Turnstile. So that just kind of snowballed into bigger work. And LA was a really expanding experience for me and still is, just as far as the opportunities and how many industries are based in LA. Like the entertainment industries, music, and just the art scenes are all reasons why I needed to be here. And it's funny because as a freelance designer that just needs Wi-Fi and a laptop, people are like,
Yeah.
did you really need to be in Los Angeles to do what you're doing? And I think the short answer is kind of yes, because it's more about like the creative community and the people that you meet and the opportunities that kind of arise from just being outside. You know what I mean? So I felt like I was missing out on a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do, especially when I had handled like Anderson Paak's Malibu campaign and I was still in Philly. But seeing how that was like rolling out in Los Angeles and not being a part of that, I was like, okay, like I am putting myself in California as soon as possible. So I started coming out here in like I guess 2017,
Okay.
and kind of like fell in love with it in 2018. I moved here in January, so it's almost been 8 years, I guess, of Los Angeles living. And yeah, it was expansive for me because um, there's just more space. You know what I mean? Like there's a different kind of viewpoint and different like levels to the city. You're just like seeing all these different views, and my access to materials as like a collage artist really opened up too. So I just went nuts when I moved out here and just started
Yeah.
collecting. Like you can see this bookshelf behind me. That's one of four I have just like totally stacked of like collected magazines and books. And that was another reason that I wanted to get out here, because I just started going to the flea markets when I was visiting. I was
Mm-hmm.
just popping up hella magazines. I was so inspired, and it was kind of an exciting time, just realizing that I could move to a different coast off the strength of my artwork, and subsequently be embraced by the city and like plant roots here and really like become an Angelino, after all this time.
Yeah, I really love that you mentioned that because I'm from New York originally and now I
Uh-huh.
live in Florida. I live in Tampa.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in Miami and it's so
Hmm.
different. Like when we're talking about like culture, like design, especially for designers, and culture and
Yeah.
community is really important for us. And to
Yeah.
like I mean, I wasn't a designer when I was in New York, but I was still super creative. And so like now that I'm like a solidified graphic designer and then experiencing the Miami design vibe is like totally
Mm-hmm.
different. And it's a little bit, to your point
Yeah.
about moving coast, it's a little bit like jarring a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, is this the vibe? But the more that you really like let it come over you, like you're in it,
Yeah.
it is, we're vibing, to your point, like making that jump, you're
Yeah.
like, this is cool. And you can really find your creative community everywhere. And I love, that's why I was
Yep.
asking about, your
Mm-hmm.
environment, because I truly think your environment does affect your creative path, especially in
Yes.
those periods of those really in the thick of it moments. Like, I went to
Yeah.
school in North Carolina, and so
Okay.
that was like a little, not strange creatively, but it was different because, like I said, I was grew up in New York, so um,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
hearing about that, how environment affects that, and how like LA
Yep.
inspires you.
Absolutely. And just traveling in general too. Like
Yes.
at a certain point, it's like I kind of have to get out of LA to get re-inspired. And
Yeah.
um, that's why I'm plotting on like a Europe trip, and we're
Mm-hmm.
down in like Mexico a lot too. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to have some motion, and to really like embrace different visuals and different cultures. And you know, not like I'm making art like when I'm like traveling, but just like getting out of my direct context and seeing all these new colors and scenarios, and
Yes.
seeing how people live differently and what people's like priorities are. It always makes me think about life a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's so true. Do you have any other like creative hobbies that are outside of graphic design that
Yeah, I
help
think
you?
like, well, music is something that I've kind of returned to in the past 2 years. So when
Yeah,
I'm not doing art, I'm kind of in the studio.
love that.
So I released an album 3 months ago. It's actually the 3 month anniversary,
Ah,
called
congratulations.
Beach Burners. Yeah. So really, really fun project. There's a lot of people that you're probably familiar with on there, such as Chuck English from the Cool Kids, and Blue, one of my favorite rappers of all time. So that's been a fun experience. Like, it's not really a hobby. I take it pretty seriously, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's not full time because I'm doing art full time. It's really like kind of split in the middle at this point.
Yeah.
But my hobbies are usually creative pursuits, and sometimes I make collages that nobody will ever see, and it's just like really
Mhm.
studio practice, little zines and experiments and drawings and stuff. But like really, like I'll be up in the books too, like just really reading a lot of musicians biographies and
Mm,
autobiographies, and really
yes.
fascinated by people's lives and how they're able to work. Like last year I read Miles Davis autobiography.
Hmm.
That was really amazing. I just finished the biography about MF Doom that came out last year. That was just
Mm.
one of the best books I've ever read. So that kind of stuff is like when I'm not really in the thick of it, like chopping up in the studio, I'm really like reading and just trying to get re-inspired, you know.
No, yeah, I love reading too, and I'm gonna sidebar you because I definitely want to know more about like some of your personal recommendations and your
Yeah.
library, things like that. But I feel like for me, reading definitely like unlocks a different layer of creativity because it's like
Mhm.
I'm envisioning things and I'm being challenged to
Yeah.
build upon things without my hands and
Yeah.
without just like do. Sometimes like my design
Yeah.
is very chaotic, so sometimes I'm just doing stuff off the cut on the fly. So it's interesting reading. It's like sit down, take these words in, and take it in that way. I think
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Well, it's funny because not many people read books anymore too. Like
Yeah, what's up with that?
I've kind of learned that over the past few years. Like I'm one of the rare breed, that still has this kind of analog approach to life where,
Yeah,
a lot of the art I make is handmade, and
right.
I still read books and collect books and magazines, and it's just that analog, like low tech lifestyle. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And I embrace technology. Obviously, I have the iPhone and computer and scanner and printer and all that, but
Yeah,
I still like I like to write things down, especially like
me too.
I keep a sketchbook, and my design process is like the sketches are paramount for the design process. Even if it's a little crappy thumbnail,
Hmm.
I need to like just get the idea out in some way, shape, or form before I hit the computer.
Okay.
And that's a general rule of mine. I really don't sit down at the computer and start designing until there's sketches in my sketchbook.
And that's always just been like that's always been the first step, or like as far as you
Yeah.
enter your flow state, that's just where you like
Well,
always find it.
yeah. Unless I'm like I already kind of know exactly what it's supposed to be and I don't want to waste any time. I sometimes will start and have to like stop and go back to a thumbnail, and it's really just a matter of deciding what the design is going to be, because there's an infinite amount of decisions you can make within a design, right? And it can almost drive you nuts. So it's like,
it's true.
Instead of sitting, there's an old cranky designer's quote that's like, the computer is just a light bright for bad fucking ideas. And I honestly like think he was right, because the idea starts like not in the computer, and a lot of the times my ideas like come from the process, so you do have to kind of get started somewhere. But I think like the computer doesn't have the concept in it, and if you're relying purely on just internet references, I think that's kind of a dangerous territory too.
I agree, and that's the basis of my argument of why I'm always say like I'm not afraid of AI, and I'm not scared of I don't want to say I'm not scared, but like I think that is an important thing that people fail to realize about that. And I want to talk about that, but I also want to go back to your design process and how you collaborate. And one of the questions that I wanted to know was, what's your ideal like client or partner collaboration? Like, do you like when people come to you with the full out idea? Do you like the structure, or do you want to kind of come in, and especially like as a creative director and a designer, like what's your ideal space for that?
Yeah, and that's such a good question, because I think a lot of designers think they want just infinite creativity.
Not me. I need structure. I need
order. A lot of my best projects were me being just the designer and not the creative director.
Yes.
And this is, my role has kind of shifted over the years, and I think that creative director really does mean a lot of different things, and that 99% of people are using it in the wrong way, or don't really understand what creative director means, or like how to work within a team and kind of think about a project from a larger scope. And I learned all these things through my experience at Nylon magazine, where I was my role was design director, so that had to do with illustration and design, and kind of like where those directions were going within 7 different brands that were connected to Nylon. So it was like a really big learning experience for me, because I like to try to find the answer right away. And I learned how to step really, really far back from these design problems and kind of like be a creative director by zooming out as far as possible and seeing what all the possibilities are and who is the best person for those roles. And most of the time I was the best person to design my idea, so I ended up executing a lot of the stuff. But it's such a creative direction is really important in the design process, and sometimes the designer has to be the creative director. Well, most of the time, especially when the budgets are slim and no one wants to pay double the budget. But if I'm get a really giant project, then I'll usually hire a creative director, to kind of like help on the ideation or the conceptual side.
Yeah.
If I want to be the designer. And sometimes it's such a gray area where you're working with a strong partner and you're both doing creative direction and designing, or someone's like stronger at executing the type, and then someone's stronger at executing the illustrative qualities of the design.
Yeah.
And then there's people that are good at just assembling those things and repackaging them a million ways. But I grew up as an illustrator. So, graphic design was something that, that was my major. But within the graphic design program, I was an illustrator doing stuff pen and ink. So this is before my collage work, but it was almost like working on Bristol board or illustration or watercolor paper and doing these like pretty detailed portraits of rappers and politicians, and I thought I was going to be an editorial illustrator. I ended up being one through collage, like later down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But all that to say is as a designer and artist, I kind of come from an illustration point of view, where I come up with the creative and the art and the colorful images, and sometimes the design can be an afterthought, or sometimes I just wait to put it into a graphic design context until the aesthetic is complete and the illustration part is done.
Yeah.
That sometimes doesn't work the best. Sometimes it's better to kind of work with a designer while you're doing illustration stuff and kind of combining the forces. It kind of depends on what the project is,
Yeah.
or who the band is. When I was working with Turnstile, the lead singer Brendan was the creative director for all of those projects. So I basically like got really creative, but at the end of the day, I was the designer, and he had the vision for exactly what he wanted, and it was really precise, which helped the process in the long run, and it saved time. And we still did a proper amount of exploration. But I think when a designer has to be the creative director and the designer, sometimes the project can suffer from one point of view.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's so, for as far as creative direction is concerned, I guess it just depends on the person's personal background. Because to your point, I love how you said that your bread and butter, or your foundation, is illustration. And like, I think of it, for me, I didn't draw. I was never a drawer. I didn't know how to do any of that. I went to school for media production.
Okay.
And then out of that, I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I like having the bird's eye and having all of that, but I also really find happiness and joy in just graphic designing.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because then you have like a person who's very music forward in their idea of a creative direction. And even sometimes creative direction can kind of look like project management with a design hat on. Like it's so interesting to see how many different like ways somebody can be a creative director. And like
you're exactly right. Yeah.
It makes me feel like, I don't know.
Well, it's really funny because, for the Future project, for instance, I think that was a really good example of like the new creative director, because my boy that got me on that project, Spike Jordan, he was Future's creative director for maybe 2 years. So that means he was the brain behind that run of music videos, photo shoots, general public perception, styling, graphic design, and all that. And Spike basically he had his team, Genius Club, kind of support him. But he was the mastermind behind a lot of Future stuff for those years. And I think that's what a true creative director is seeing the project on a large scale and conceptually building these strong concepts with photographers and designers, and bringing on someone like me to do a specific task of this album packaging. It kind of snowballed into me doing like the cover and the documentary and stuff like that. But I think he's a really good example of a creative director, because he's working on all pieces of a campaign, from top down, music videos and all that.
Yeah. And I love that. I think that eventually I have a long creative career to go, but I definitely do want to dabble into music videos too. I think there's such art in that as well, especially like really looking at cover art. Naturally, the pipeline is going to go to the next visual thing, which is the music video, and just like building out the world. And that's why I love cover art too, because the music, especially when the music is so good, it's like, I want more, but like, let's touch on some other senses. And that's like when the whole outer and like the marketing and the creative direction and how everything else like marries together. Like I love like healthy escapism in that way. Healthy. I don't even know how to clip that.
No, that's facts. And I think like, at this point, every musician or band or artist or rapper or singer is a brand within themselves. So we're really talking about branding and brand trust and brand image and what it means, because, at the end of the day, brand is almost an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
and whoever's illusion is the strongest wins.
That's
And
true.
that illusion is reinforced by having the logo like never change, or having just the brand guidelines never deviate from that, whatever that means. So I think like, you take that into a music thing, and it's like, you know, even Anderson Paak, like you can't forget the dot in front of the pack, because that's part of his
Mm-hmm.
branding. That's part of
Mm-hmm.
his branding. Like the creative direction considers like even like punctuation and the copywriting and captions and stuff like that. So it really is like an immersive thing about like how the media is presented and how you're manipulating the media. And it's almost like propaganda in a way, because there's so much psychology involved in
Yes.
it.
Yes, I started writing on Substack, and before I started writing like articles and pieces on there, I have like a whole bunch of just abstracts in my notes of ideas, and one of them is about like psychology and media, and just like obviously I talk about the positive effects of it, but it can definitely
Yeah.
be used for negative, but it's really a study to it. And like sometimes I
Yeah.
don't know, I feel like people are like, oh, it's just cover art, whatever. But I'm like, no, it's so meticulous and so intentional. And people,
Hmm.
even if you think it's not intentional, it is. That means somebody's doing their job very well. And I've just always had an appreciation. I'm like, somebody, it's
Yeah.
a team of people that
Yeah.
sit down and like, all right, we're gonna have this. We're not gonna use teal. We're gonna use coral. Like, and I think that that's so fire and so fascinating. And I always tell people like another reason why I started
Yep.
going super deep dive for album cover specifically is
Yeah.
because everybody there is I think a lane for everybody in the realm of creative direction and art direction and artist development and visual branding and all those things. It's like
Hmm.
what skills everybody has a certain skill, so let's use that skill to the best of its ability. Like
Yeah.
my always thing is the thing that I always say is everybody can't be Beyonce, and I don't mean that in a way, but you know how to work a photographer, you know how to work the camera, you need to be a
Yeah.
photographer, you know how to curl some hair, you could do Beyonce's hair on the cover art. And like Dangerously in Love, going for the Beyonce example, her
Yep.
hair with her hair flowing, and like that's so iconic. And I think people should recognize and realize that it's never just one person. Like even like the idea never comes
Yeah.
from one person. So my little
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And when I was putting out my album like earlier, well, at the end of the summer, there
Mhm.
was just so many people and so many things that were involved in this thing. We had planned like a 6-month rollout and had 6 music videos and all these interviews and like listening parties and just kind of like strategic things to just reinforce the infrastructure of the idea or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun to do that with the rollout, and I think like some projects deserve it and some projects can be just kind of dropped. But
Yep.
yeah, I think like that decision should be made intentionally too. And you know, I had some thoughts when you were talking about like a team, like talking about the artwork and stuff. And I think sometimes stuff can be taken a little too seriously, and
Yeah.
then like a design by committee type of situation,
Hmm.
like where everyone has their input, it just ends up looking like kind of different than the original spark or the original thing. And like
Yeah.
not like I recommend like getting demoitis when it comes to visual stuff, but I think like sometimes the design can really really suffer from too many rounds or revisions, and it just becomes like flat and lifeless, or it just like you're just chipping away too much and it's just hanging on by a thread at a certain point.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think like as a designer and something that I'm learning, especially like when like speaking with clients, is like you brought me on to use my expertise. So it's like there has to be a more of like a
Yeah.
trust. I think
Yeah.
clients could benefit from trusting more, but designers could benefit more from like understanding that we're here to help them execute their idea with our brain. And
Yes.
I was like asking earlier about like your ideal environment for
Yeah.
collaboration and client work because of that. Like I know for me
Yeah.
personally, I I don't want to say I don't work well with others, but I have to consciously make sure, because and I think this is something
Yeah.
that most designers, like, we sit in our room and we design by ourselves, and it's a vibe.
Yeah.
I have my music, I have my tea, like, it's a whole thing. So
Yeah.
when you I let other people in, it's like, I don't want you to take me out of that vibe. So
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
that's kind of
I
what
know
it,
exactly what you're talking about. And
yeah.
it's tough, you know, and I think like I really enjoyed certain aspects of working with a team and really did like giant projects that weren't possible to do alone. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to like think bigger at a certain regard. But you know, my art and design process is a little mysterious as well. And
Mhm.
in this day and age of showing a tutorial for every little thing that you do, I think
Yes.
is really like you're just engagement farming. And I
Mhm.
get it. Short form content is the name of the game.
Mhm.
But to me, like making art is like a sacred act sometimes.
Very
And
ritualistic. It can be so
like
ritualistic.
I don't need to be like trying to be like an influencer when I'm doing that. Like it
Mhm.
just doesn't work for me. So there's some spots where I'm like, I can present a project that I've done, and sometimes I can put the camera on and work, but it's really hard for me to merge my like sacred process with like the interface of social media.
Yeah, and I think especially with how, like, social media is right now for designers. I literally just saw a tweet that's last night that's like, all the designers are content creators now. And then
Yeah.
somebody kind of came back and was like, well, we create content. But I think that there's so other, because I don't want to sit on here and do tutorials. I don't, and like I was
Yeah.
saying earlier, my design process is very
Yeah.
chaotic. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have, first you do this layer, then you do this layer, then you, like, that's not my vibe at all. People ask
Yeah.
me how I do certain design stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know who I was when I was.
Experimented. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And that's what makes it fun. And I think sometimes people feel like they have access, but because
yeah.
social media, people feel like they have access to you in that way.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really cool, like, boundary that designers can need to realize, can remember that you actually don't, there's other ways for you to get there without literally just screen
Yeah.
recording your Photoshop
Well,
artwork.
I've gotten a lot out of tutorials too, so no shade
Yeah.
about like sharing knowledge and stuff, but
Yeah.
at a certain point it's like, wouldn't you rather be like making a zine or something, like instead of making a video all day long for a couple likes, and
Mhm.
then when it doesn't hit, you're gonna be really upset about that. It's like I'm kind of a OG, so to be completely honest, like I'm moving into a different phase of my design career where I was at this corporate gig, Nylon magazine, for almost 3 years, and then went on like freelance. But I've officiated my freelance project process into more of a independent design studio. So I'm just doing like a little bit larger projects behind the scenes now,
Yeah, I love that.
and those things they don't depend on me being like a short form content creator.
Hmm.
So I'm lucky where I'm like, I don't think I have to do that.
Hmm.
And I will make little videos of like the album covers I've done because I
Yeah.
want people to make connections. And it's really for like the younger designers. Like I don't
Hmm.
need to like tell people what I've done all day, but I want people, like people don't know that I've done the Future cover or like the last 3 Turnstile records, not the new one, but and like the chronic stuff, like all this reggae stuff that has like a really big value, especially in Jamaica and in England, like
Hmm.
where my work with chronics is the work that defines my career. Like, and Anderson's cool too, but and
Hmm.
Future's cool too, but chronics is some people's favorite artist, and that's around the world. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
I like to share those things because I just my career has been kind of a long time. I've been doing this shit for a long time, so I just think it's like important that we just dig in the archives sometimes. But for me to be like, hey, like today I'm doing this, like I think I missed that boat. Like I don't know if I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. I love hearing you
You
talk
know?
about all of the projects that you've been able to be a part of, and the wisdom that comes with that. Like, sometimes,
Yeah.
as I consider myself a baby designer, because I've
Yeah.
only been designing for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So I really, it's nice to hear sometimes the evolution of
Hmm.
the creative mind and the skill and the talent that comes, because sometimes as a
Yeah.
young designer it's like I want to be this level right now, but it's like
Oh
only
yeah.
sometimes it's only time that could like really get you there, and to like keep doing it and keep designing every day. Well, I don't know, every day.
The thing that's gonna get you, you're just gonna get really good out of nowhere because you're gonna like aggressively try to match the stuff that you're designing to the stuff that you see in your head. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
the process is about connecting those two things. I think it's like we
Mm-hmm.
all have this like higher aspiration, or we see work from other artists where you're like, that's the level that I want to be operating at, but it
Mm-hmm.
takes so much time. But it's like you can close that gap faster by just being more aggressive about it,
Yeah.
like really like almost being mad that you're not there yet, and
Mm.
like and taking revenge and like really and like spending that studio time. Like there was a summer in 2014 where I didn't go out, I didn't go to one party, and I just made art all summer.
Wow.
I stopped everything. I stopped all the bullshit. I was like, I'm gonna make art for 3 months and see what happens. And then I started working with Anderson. Like,
Mm.
and he had just changed his name from Breezy Lovejoy, but this is how far back we go. Like I had done a, a couple posters for him in 2014, I think, before we started working on the Venice campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So like that dedication to just like illustration for summer kind of like led me to the current path I'm on now. Actually, like it's kind of funny, the series was called Pro Rap, and I just remember it clearly. Mac Miller reposted one, rest in peace.
Wow.
And then Anderson was like, yo, where's my drawing or cartoon or whatever? And
Mm-hmm.
that's how we started. And that was just a decision I made to like just to make a body of work that was gonna to make people notice. And Drake reposted one of the drawings, like it was going crazy, and it worked. And I was happy that I kind of like repositioned my time, and I reclaimed my time in a way where it's like, okay, the parties and the BS are gonna always be here, but
Yeah,
like what can I do in 3 months, like just solo, like just cook.
I
And
love
I
that.
look back at that work and it's decent or whatever, but it was just a stepping stone, and it was a decision like I'm doing art, like I'm really gonna do this thing. And I was just really, really passionate. I just remember that passion.
That energy. Yeah, I was about to say the energy. It's like, yeah, the to your point, like, yeah, this is the designs, but like the
Mhm.
energy behind it is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the actual execution or the final thing that you
Oh yeah, I was just about it. Like my work wasn't amazing, but I convinced Anderson that I was his guy, and he worked with me, and he was so cool, because like I was still discovering my work, and we really worked through a lot of design stuff
Mm,
together. And after every batch, no matter what he said, he'd be like, great work. And
love that.
that was
Love that.
honestly, I think that was like pretty important, just as far as like just kept the needle moving, you know what I mean? The work eventually got better, and we placed a lot of stuff that still looks good, but it was a learning process for sure. Like
That's such a blessing to have someone that is like taking on that journey with you, like instead of it just being like a quick exchange of service. And I think
oh yeah.
that's one of the really cool things of like, because he's obviously like a creative, like uh,
Mhm.
for sure, like that's what we
For
see.
sure. Oh
So
yeah, he's a genius for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that that was like a true collaboration in that way. So
100 100%. Yeah.
can we talk about the specific design? Like,
Yep.
if like I want to talk about the design process and like inspiration. Like, was
Mhm.
there a deck? Was there a mood board? Like, what did that conversation,
Yeah.
like the brief, like what did that look like specifically
Yeah.
for the next album cover? Because I know I
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for Malibu, that's a really good question. There was definitely a big creative direction element.
Mhm.
So after Venice, you know, we had done a whole campaign, and that was kind of over, and I was working on different stuff at that time.
Mhm.
So there might have been maybe like 9 months where I didn't talk to AP or anybody in the camp, and they hit me up to do like a European tour poster, and we banging out. It was just like a one-off. I don't think I knew Malibu was happening, or I'm not sure what the story was.
Mhm.
Maybe I knew he was in the studio with Dre. Um, but then, you know, they were like, sick poster, but like we were bringing on a creative director for our new album called Malibu.
Mhm.
And and um I guess like Corey Gomberg was the creative director they hired, who happened to be one of the creative directors for the Source magazine in the mid 90s. He styled like the Wu-Tang Clan and Biggie, and put everybody in these crazy outfits. And he was like in his mid 20s, but low key, like kind of redefining fashion in a hip hop space in the mid 90s. And Anderson's manager grew up with this dude or just knew him.
Mhm.
So Adrian and Corey were just friends from back in the day, and Corey had done the Source and all these fashion brands, and you know, he was just, his resume was insane. He had, you know, clothing lines with Snoop Dogg, and was friends with, you know, fucking Greg and Ghostface and shit. So Corey, like, I get on the phone with Corey, and I'm like, who is this OG like trying to tell me what to do or whatever? And I'm like, oh man, like this is a different process. And meanwhile, I'm just this like young designer. Like I think I know what's up, but I really don't. Like
Mhm.
I'm talented and whatever, but Corey was the one that was like, "Oh, who did that Venice cover? Like we need him to do Malibu."
Mm.
So, yeah, one thing leads to another, and they come hitting me back up, and they're like, "Yeah, like will you work with Corey on the whole Malibu thing?" And I was like, "Let's do it." Um, so Corey ended up being like really, really influential as far as the creative direction and leading this whole campaign as far as what he wanted it to look like. So there was a deck for the cover. There was all these references of 70s rock album covers like Jimi Hendrix, Electric Ladyland, and 10cc. Um, the 10cc cover was called what was that one called? It was a diver holding a girl. And that was the cover that we really were inspired by. But it was the whole realm of like 70s rock covers. Like
Mm.
Corey wanted to bring something that was like more grandiose. And I guess because Anderson wasn't really just like hip hop or just R&B, he's just like this larger than life, multi-genre, multifaceted drummer, like just bigger than just one thing. So the deck was really like, it was really like 70s rock covers, you know, and then my collage artwork element was gonna like kind of be brought into the studio photography.
Mm.
So all the photos and stuff on the cover and the inside and everything, all those were shot in studio, almost like Jimi Hendrix style, with the naked chicks like Electric Ladyland, and covering them up with the collage and stuff like that. So Corey had all these like keywords for like, you know, like underwater, like aquatic collage imagery. And he came up with these like catchy, like creative direction terms. And I actually made a case study of Malibu
Hmm.
that like I'll share with you, but it's available on Dropbox to download, but it's like basically the whole process.
Oh,
But
dope.
everything was like really, really considered. And he showed me what it kind of meant to be a creative director in that sense, where you're gathering all these references, and the concept is running parallel to the music somehow,
Mhm.
but it's creating a whole new world. You know, it's informed by the music, but it's making the cover like this this piece of art that makes the album make even more sense, that you can kind of travel within. And I think the thing about Venice that was really successful was that the artwork looked like the music sounded, and I think
Mhm.
that's what we accomplished with Malibu as well. It's almost this synesthesia effect where, you know, you look at the cover and you can kind of hear like the bird or whatever song you like from Malibu kind of start playing. But
Yeah.
Like we listened to the album so many times while creating the artwork. We got a lot of the ideas for the actual collage clips and stuff from the stuff Anderson was talking about. And for every single cover, Corey was really intensely determined to find the concept of the song, and through the concept, how to illustrate that through collage. So some of the stuff just looks cool, but it really wasn't like that. It was like everything was so research based. Like, for Room in Here, it's Josephine Baker on the cover. And, we thought it was like this, uptown New York jazz joint. Like, like we wanted to capture that energy. And Corey taught me what it meant to like do like a lot of research and kind of like line certain concepts up with the things that you're finding in the outside in the research, and then inside the lyrics, and how to connect those things and how to connect those dots through images.
That is so fascinating and so inspiring. Like even hearing you say what that like I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
that is the art to that. Everybody cannot do that. Like I
Yeah,
love
we
that.
went in. I think that's a testament to why the Malibu cover still is talked about, because even though it's been 10 years and I've gone on to do a lot of different projects, I'm going to be known for the Malibu cover, and that's totally fine with me. But
Mhm.
I think it's a testament to how much thought and time went into it, and there's certain things I would probably change now, but like it has emotion, and it kind of like captures lightning in a bottle, and I think that's
Mhm.
why it's still kind of electric.
Yeah, I think any album cover that can be a standalone piece of art is like it makes me be
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's that. Like if you saw it in
Yeah.
an exhibit, like out,
Yeah.
like separate from the music, if you saw it like in an exhibit or in the art show, whatever, you would be like, whoa, that's fire. Like as a
Yeah.
print or anything, and I think that that's
Yeah.
there's like a certain special like twang, I guess, that an album cover can have. So
Yeah,
that's
it definitely has a lot of seasoning and flavor in there.
yeah.
And I think another thing that we used to talk about it or compare it to was kind of like a Renaissance painting, just like how thick and
Mm.
textured, and like just the patina and the foxing on all the paper textures I was laying over it just gave it this like historical importance in a way.
Yes, that was like yesterday. I was literally looking at I want to get brushed up on my art history. Like I've
Yeah.
definitely been super familiar with Dalí lately. There's a
Yeah.
Dalí museum in St. Pete, and I've gone
That's
there a
right.
couple times, and they've even done a super cool Pink Floyd thing, and it was like a full 360, and it's like all
Yeah.
space, and
Crazy.
that's my favorite kind of like I love futurism and space and cosmic and Hajime Soriyama. Like that's my
Yeah.
personal favorite. So
Yeah.
to see the Pink Floyd thing at the Dalí thing was crazy. And even thinking about Dalí, and I'm making a point
Hmm.
here, but even the thing about Dalí is like the way that it's so like I don't know how to say it. Like it kind of feels like AI a little bit, but like AI before AI was AI. But it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
intentional AI. Like
Yeah,
just
he's
how
like mixing up like the
yeah
figures and smashing things together that don't make sense. You know
yeah
what? That's a really good point. It almost does ring like that. And there's kind of like a still Dolly a lot of Dolly's work has like this really kind of strange peculiarity or weirdness or
yeah
from the other side. And he was definitely an interesting figure, you know what I mean? Like somebody that just live life as art. And
hmm
I think like a lot of people separate their art and they come home and they're like the regular selves, but some
yeah.
people are just like their crazy art selves
I was
all
about
the
to say,
time.
yeah, they're crazy, and it's crazy, like the true mad science. I say all the time,
Yeah,
like those type of artists really remind me of mad scientists. Like I
totally.
love it. It's so cool. But going back to what you're saying about the
Yeah,
Renaissance painting, I was looking
yeah.
up Sandro Bocelli, but
Botticelli.
Botticelli, yes. I
Mhm.
was I randomly went into a TikTok deep dive about how detailed, and there's like a specific painting
Hmm.
Oh, I hate that I can't remember right now, but I guess it's like the Venus is depicted in it, and there's Cupid, and there's like a Mercury, and I don't remember the name
The
of.
allegory of spring.
Yes, 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 yes. And there's the detailing. Like when you talk about like collage work, I think there is a
Yeah.
super level of detail. Like the way that you can pick, like what are we pulling out exactly, and
Yeah.
what are we putting on the main thing? Like I think that
Yeah.
there's such a connection with that. Like the way that he like does the hair and like the skin texture and all
Yeah.
that is so fascinating. And I think to your
Hmm.
point, like that attention to detail in
Mm.
art in general can always be, people will always appreciate that, and that always shows in the bigger picture. Because specifically, like I was scrolling through your page and I think you
Yeah.
recently did a Mariah Carey, it wasn't
Yeah.
Mariah Carey, yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like looking at, I'm like, how do you know what detail, like how do you know what to pull out from, like
Right.
from who she is and all the things that, like especially somebody who has worked on and been involved with so many things, like how do you know what, yeah, we're going to use this red, we're going to use this picture, we're going to use this, like
Yeah.
it's so crazy. Anybody that does like
Yeah.
collage work in general, I'm like, yeah, you're good. Because I had a moment where I was like really into in like the 2014 2015 Tumblr days. I was doing a lot of
Yeah.
collages, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm too, like I was like really in it, and I'm like
Yeah.
finding all the details, and I was like, it's almost making me crazy. So anybody that
Yeah.
can do that, cool.
It's an infinite thing for sure. And I think like my process is, always kind of changes to get more simple over time
Yeah.
too. And it's like I do love the detailed stuff. And to the Mariah Carey piece, like just thinking about that piece, my collage sometimes gets really abstract. So
Hmm.
the pieces, it's a little bit different than like an object based collage, kind of like the Malibu thing, where the paper almost just becomes texture and color at a certain point. And
Hmm.
I have like the hero image of Mariah, like just really like anchoring in, what the piece is. But then I'm able to like just really like kind of get really free, and a lot of my newer collage stuff is really really abstract, maybe with one kind of hero image to make it all make sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really fun to kind of like break the pictorial plane a bit more and just invert images. And
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to do a really large scale piece. So I'm excited to like see how abstract I can go with it still looking like something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about like abstract. When things are too abstract, it makes my brain hurt. It makes my like cross. Like I just need a little bit of like unity, but for me,
Yeah.
but it's so cool because also like specifically about abstract art, it can be interpreted in like a bajillion different ways, and that's
Hmm.
cool to like see something, and every brain picks out different things, and that is what I respect about like abstract art in general.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of abstract art that I maybe don't understand, but it's fun playing in the field where you're just like loosening up with your own personal style, and almost like collaging the collages in a certain way.
yeah, it's a collage inception. That's so
Yeah.
cool. I love
Yeah.
that. If you ever write a book, it should be called Collage Inception.
That's a crazy
That's
name
a
for
lot.
an actual book. Yeah. And what if the whole book was cut through? So
Hmm.
like the cover was the biggest square, but
Yeah.
then it's just like little squares all the way down into the middle. This is a
Oh,
really
that.
awesome book for design though, by the way. Dan Friedman, Radical Modernism.
Oh, love that.
He was in the 80s and 90s. He like redesigned like Citibank with like this really wild um brand guidelines that kind of broke the world in a way. Like he was really famous for
Interesting.
this. And then he started making these like really insane sculptures that were in museums and stuff. But this is a book that I'd recommend for any designer. I just got it in the mail a couple of days ago. I'm super, super excited about that
Yeah,
one.
that's really cool. I love,
Yeah.
and I have a couple more questions. So, but going, speaking of the Citibank thing in the book,
Yeah.
I didn't, like I was saying, I didn't go to design school, so
Hmm.
I don't have like I guess like that prerequisite of specific design principles and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I just be winging it. But
Yeah.
for you personally, and you've been
Yeah.
a designer and you've been creative direction and done all that for so long, like what do you
Yeah.
feel like are some of your design principles or things that you feel
Yeah.
like it's not done until I have this incorporated with it, or it's best when I make sure I do
Yeah.
this? And I don't know if it's like a color thing, if it's a texture thing, like what would you say are some of your design principles?
I guess for like album packaging recently, I've been like really focused on the back cover not more than the front cover, but equally as much as the front cover.
Back covers need too. Yep.
Yeah, and I think the back cover is the new front cover. Yeah, I think you can do more stuff. And I think it lends itself to really fun typographic solutions. So
yes.
I see back covers every day where I'm just like, man, like that does not represent the album. And it's like almost every back cover I see is an afterthought.
Dang.
Yeah, it's not good. It's really bad. It's really bad out there. So my main focus right now is like to make these really amazing back cover pieces. So and with that being said, it's like really like staying on the grid with type. I think as far as when you have that much information, the grid's going to be your best friend. And Helvetica, I don't know, like it's just, there's a reason why people use it. It's just the best. You know?
It really is. I love Helvetica. That is my jam. I heard
there's so many different like ways to style it. Like you can do so much with it. You can pair it with like a really crazy or hand done font, and that's like kind of where my head's at these days, is really simplifying things and then like maybe moving one thing off the grid if that is what the project dictates, you know.
Yeah, I feel like especially playing around, I don't know if it's just like me and my algorithm and the things that I'm attuned to, but I feel like typography is kind of like, I'm not trendy, but I feel like people are like, I don't know how to verbalize what I'm trying to say, but typography to general population has become outside of the design world.
Yeah.
I'm like whatever it's typography, but I feel like the regulars are kind of really catching on to those kinds of things and like knowing the name of fonts and stuff.
Yeah, because people are making content now and they're on Canva and they you know they're choosing fonts and in a sense everybody is kind of everything and everybody's a designer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like the old days where you were just one thing and you were like the best at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let the designers design, you know. I think it's like, you know, it's great for people to know some like design rules so that they can make like flyers for their bands and stuff like that, and just like present their own world a little bit cleaner. But yeah, like I feel like the world is made of design, and you know, it's a pretty big responsibility to design the world the right way.
That it is. And I think people try to turn a blind eye to that, and it's all fun. Yeah, it's all fun and games and rainbows and sunshine, but like it's there's definitely a level of responsibility. I love that you said that. So my last question before I let you go is just going to be, what are some, I know we were talking about the large scale projects, but what are some things that you're working on now as far as like design and creative direction? And then what are some things that are kind of coming in the future?
Yes. So I don't know if I can talk about any of the projects I'm working on right now.
Okay. Okay. Love that.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I'm definitely entering a new space. Let's just say I'm working with a footwear brand.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, I'm like doing a lot of stuff for them.
Okay. Still with the essence of, can we talk about like specific, like still with the essence of,
and I'm going crazy with collage, like,
okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Okay.
yeah. So that's been really fun and exciting and a little challenging, and it's a really big project. And yeah, it's exactly the stuff that I want to be working on right now. So The creative direction is really spot on. The deck was really thorough. The whole team is like superstars. But there's also a level of like, it's a really top tier, a serious project, but there's a level of like chill creative, like this is still fun and it's gonna look dope. And yeah, even though it's very, very serious, like it's something that like I feel like it's just really aligned, and I'm super, super happy to be working on this and kind of pushing my style into new directions and pushing this brand into new directions stylistically.
I'd love to hear that. That sounds
Yeah.
like the environment. That sounds like an ideal environment for just for designers and creatives in general. So I love that.
Yeah.
The fact that it aligns, like
It's been great. It's been great. And to be quite honest, like with the step up of the design career, there's been a little bit less of the like art in the background. So that's just, I think I'm like kind of going through an incubation period right now, just like like formally creating the studio, working on these bigger corporate projects, and just thinking about what the studio looks like in the next like 5 years. But yeah, like I did a ton of creative and a lot of collages all throughout the year, and now I'm like switching gears and really like getting into the files and project managing and making stuff happen.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.
I love your content, and it was an honor for me to join and to be asked the questions that I love to be asked. And you obviously know what you're talking about, so this was a pleasure as well.
Yay, thank you so much.